The evening was setting in. Poor Ami was sitting under the shade of a thick tree. The tears refused to stop and her chest trembled with sobs. A bandage was tied on her wounded hand where the bone had broken, and her heart was shattered by the wounds given by her own children. The same children for whom she'd swept floors in other people's houses for years, washed their dishes, and worked as a laborer to raise them. And today those very children had beaten her, pushed her out of the house, and broken even the bones of her hand. Ami groaned in pain. Alone and helpless, she sat under that tree when suddenly from behind the bushes came the cry of an animal. Ami became alert. With trembling hands, she picked up her stick and took cautious steps forward. She saw a lioness lying there, badly wounded, her body covered with fresh injuries and her eyes full of helplessness. She had just given birth to a tiny cub. The pain was so unbearable that within a few breaths, she passed away. Seeing this scene, Halima Bibi's heart melted. She slowly stepped forward, lifted that innocent lion cub in her arms, held him to her chest, and said with teary eyes, "You too have become lonely like me. Don't be afraid, I will take care of you." With the help of her stick, Amy reached the riverside. She drank some water herself and gave some to the cub as well. The signs of hunger were clearly visible on both their faces, but the courage was still alive. Walking slowly, she reached deep into the forest, until after a while she saw a small, simple hut. Seeing that hut in the middle of the jungle, she was surprised. She gently knocked on the door. After a few moments, an elderly man of God came out. His face was glowing with the light of worship. With kindness, he asked, "Who are you, sister?" "Do you need help?" Halima Bibi replied in a tired voice. "I am all alone. I have no one left. This lion's cub is also alone. We need shelter." The old man smiled and said, "In the house of Allah, no one is ever alone." Come inside, Ami entered the hut and sat down. After a while, the old man brought a bowl of milk. Halima Bibi drank half of it herself, gave the other half to the cub, and closed her eyes in gratitude. The old man sat beside her and asked sympathetically, "Sister, how did your hand break? Why are you wandering here in the jungle?" Hearing this, tears began to flow from Halima Bibi's eyes. She said, "I have been wronged, and this cruelty was not done by a stranger, but by my own children." The old man's face filled with compassion. "Tell me, sister, what is your story?" he asked. She began to speak. "My name is Halima. It's been 15 years since I got married, but my lap remained empty. My husband loved me dearly. Our life was happy, but the absence of children kept piercing our hearts every moment. In search of a child, we tried everything, from healers and medicines to prayers and supplications. But fate remained silent. Then one day, suddenly, he had a heart attack and left me all alone. My life shattered completely. One day, I went to the fields to cut grass for the buffaloes. That day I reached a rather lonely place when suddenly I heard the cry of a child coming from behind the bushes. Startled, I moved forward. Among the bushes lay two innocent little children. One boy and one girl. Both were crying loudly. Seeing this scene, my heart trembled. I looked around, called out, but the entire field was deserted. Not a single person was in sight. I lifted both children in my arms. A wave of motherhood rushed through my heart. Returning home, I milked the buffalo and fed them both. They were hungry. As soon as they drank the milk, they became quiet and slept peacefully in my lap. Tears flowed from my eyes. It felt as if Allah had blessed me with a new hope. I began to raise both children as my own. The villagers taunted me in many ways, saying, "Whose children have you brought?" But I clearly told everyone, "These are my own children." No one should say they were found by me. I never allowed any lack in their upbringing. One day my son, who was 5 years old, fell seriously ill. I tried every possible treatment, but he did not recover. Someone advised me, take him to the big healer in the city. But his treatment was very expensive. To save my son's life, I sold my buffalo and half of my land. I risked everything I had. After his treatment, I got both children admitted to school. They went to study, and I prayed day and night for their success. I sacrificed every happiness of mine for them. After selling the land, the income became very little, so I started working in the village houses. By doing hard labor, I fed them and tried to fulfill all their wishes. Time passed. Both children grew up, and I reached the doorstep of old age. My son, after earning his degree, got a good job in the city. When he came to the village during holidays, my heart filled with joy. My daughter also returned home after studying at a college in the city. Seeing both of them before me, I felt as if all my sacrifices had borne fruit. But slowly I began to notice that their behavior was changing. They spent most of their time on mobile phones and talked less with me. I wish they would sit with me, laugh, talk. But I would stay quiet myself, thinking maybe children these days are like that. One day a proposal came from the city for my daughter. Those people kept talking repeatedly about dowry and money. I did not like their greed, so I refused the proposal. As soon as she heard this, my daughter screamed angrily, "Amma, you don't understand anything. It was such a good proposal. I love that boy, and you rejected it." I tried to explain, "Daughter, those people were not good. Tomorrow they will torture you. What will happen then? And where will I bring so much dowry from?" But my daughter didn't listen at all. In anger, she left the house. Her behavior broke my heart. A few days later, my son hesitantly said, "Amma, there's a girl in my office. I love her and want to marry her, but her condition is that I must live at her house. Maybe I won't be able to come back to the village." With tearful eyes, I looked at my son and said, "Son, don't do this. Don't leave me. How will I live here alone?" She lowered her eyes and said softly, "Amma, you do have Nimra, right?" I answered in a tired voice, "Nimra and I are both alone women. How will we survive like this?" My son fell silent. He stalled and then returned to the city. Many months passed. When he came back, his wife was with him. Seeing this scene, my heart felt as if it had been shattered. I had cherished so many dreams for my son's wedding. Anyway, as soon as he arrived, he said plainly, "We have married." I was stunned. I wasn't even told. My lips closed. I just stayed quiet. After that, Nimra's behavior changed too. After the rejected proposal, she began to treat me coldly, and my daughter-in-law completed what was lacking. She came from a wealthy family and regarded my existence as a burden. One day I was busy sewing when my daughter-in-law sat down beside me. During the conversation, the words slipped from my mouth that Nimra and Shakil are not my biological children. I told with a simple heart how I had found and raised them. My daughter-in-law listened, smiling, but I had no idea what thoughts were growing in her heart. The next morning when I opened my eyes, both children were standing before me. Hatred burned in their eyes. Shakil yelled in anger, "You're a deceitful woman. We have never seen such a mother." Nimra said sharply, "So, that's why you rejected my marriage proposal, because we're not your blood." I froze like a stone. One evening I saw my daughter talking to some boy on the phone. It was late at night. I went over and saw that she was sending him indecent pictures of herself. Seeing this, my heart shattered. I stopped her and, in anger, slapped her on the cheek. "Is this what I taught you? Fear of Allah?" I asked in a tear-choked voice. She put her hand to her cheek and, furious, said, "Who are you to tell me whom I may speak to? How dare you slap me?" She sprang up and pushed me hard. I fell to the ground. Then she began kicking me. Just then my son came home. The sister whispered into the brother's ear, and in the next moment the two of them began to beat me with sticks and kicks. My screams rang through the courtyard. I kept folding my hands and crying, "Tell me my crime. What is my fault?" But no one listened. My daughter-in-law stood aside and watched the spectacle. Then the daughter spat at me and said, "You are not our real mother. You will never let us live in peace. You are not fit to live in this house." Saying this, they shoved me out of the house. Exhausted and helpless, I fell outside the door. Tears kept flowing, and I kept thinking about those whom I had loved more than my own life, for whom I had borne every sorrow, and they repaid me like this. Hearing all this, Halima began to sob uncontrollably. The elderly, God-fearing man's eyes filled with pain as well. He spoke gently, "Take comfort, sister. Allah brings justice. Everything will be all right." The baby cub of the lion watched Halima silently, as if absorbing every word in its tiny heart. The old man said kindly, "This hut is yours. This is my goat. You can take milk from it. Stay here and have courage. I travel in the path of Allah, but I will come here from time to time." Saying this, he departed. Halima Begum began living in the hut with that little lion cub. She prayed to Allah and spent most of her time with the innocent creature. She talked to it, shared her sorrows, and the cub seemed to understand every word, sometimes nodding its head, sometimes curling up in her lap. Meanwhile, Shakil and Nimra were convinced they had taught a deceitful woman a lesson. Shakil's wife kept pouring more poison into their hearts. She said, "Your mother herself admitted you are not her children. She must have stolen you from somewhere. In truth, you belong to a great family. Ask the villagers if you want." Shakil became restless and went to an old man in the village. "Uncle, please tell me the truth. Are we that woman's real children?" he asked anxiously. The man said softly, "No, son. The real story is that—" But Shakil cut him off. "That's all I needed to hear," he said, and without listening to the full truth, he returned home angrily. Nimra, too, could not find peace after her marriage proposal was rejected. After throwing their mother out of the house, both thought their lives would finally be peaceful. But the reality was, their hearts were now empty of truth and filled with arrogance. Soon, Shakil married Nimra off to a tire repairman and sent her away. Now he and his wife Shazia lived alone. The income from the fields improved, and Shakil bought a bit more land. Gradually, their living conditions became better. But Shazia, the woman who had broken a mother's heart and driven her children away from her own hands, did not know that no one escapes the grasp of Allah. One night, as she slept deeply, she saw Halima Begum in her dream. Tears streamed down Halima's face, and her voice was filled with pain. "Shazia, remember, your end will be a warning to others. You too will taste the pain of losing a child." Shazia woke up startled. Her face was drenched in sweat, her heart was pounding fast. She was terrified, but tried to comfort herself, thinking it was just a dream. 5 years passed, but Shakil and Shazia had no children. Shazia cried day and night, praying, "O Allah, bless me with the gift of a child." Finally, Allah showed mercy, and Shazia became pregnant. Hearing this news, their world changed. After years of prayers and vows, the joy of motherhood filled their home with light. Time passed, and Allah blessed them with a son. Shakil was overjoyed. Sweets were distributed all over the village. Shazia, too, was very happy. But deep inside, a strange fear had taken root. Often at night she saw terrifying dreams, Halima Begum's tearful face appearing before her eyes. She would wake up trembling, hold her baby close to her chest, and shiver in fear. Meanwhile, Halima Begum sat in her hut reciting the Holy Quran. Her lion had been gone for quite some time. As she recited, she kept glancing toward the door, her heart uneasy. Suddenly the door burst open. The lion entered. In its mouth was a small bundle wrapped in a blanket. Gently, it placed the baby into Halima Begum's lap. Halima Bibi's hands trembled. "Ya Allah, where have you brought this from?" she said in panic. The lion looked at her with its eyes and bowed its head as if saying, "Now your revenge has begun." Halima Bibi's eyes filled up. She recognized that this was the same lion that she had raised with her own hands. Its eyes seemed to hold all her pain. Over there in the village, there was an uproar. Shakil and Shazia were running here and there like mad people. Their condition was miserable. Actually, they were taking their sick child to the healer when suddenly on the way through the forest, a lion attacked. The next moment, the lion ran towards the jungle carrying their child. The news spread throughout the village. People gathered and said in a tone full of regret, "This is the punishment for the injustice done to the mother." Shakil screamed in anger and pain. "Which mother are you talking about?" "The woman who kidnapped us." Hearing this, the villagers were shocked. Then an old woman stepped forward. "Son, the woman who shed her blood and sweat to raise you, who made you grow up, you threw that same mother out of the house. The reality is that both of you had been left to die in the fields, but Halima Bibi picked you up and brought you to her home, and raised you with even more love than her own children. And for ungrateful sons like you, this punishment is a lesson." Hearing the old woman of the village, Shakil's face turned white. His heart seemed to collapse. The doors of memories began to open. Those moments when Halima Bibi had sold her buffalo for him. When she had gone hungry herself but fed him. When she had stood like a wall in all his sorrows and joys. But now it was too late. Shakil and Shazia ran towards the forest like mad people, asking people at every place, looking at the lion's footprints, calling out in loud voices. Shazia was broken from crying, "Ya Allah, return my child." Over there in the hut, Halima Bibi was sitting, holding that innocent child to her chest. Tears were falling from her eyes, but her face was full of peace. With trembling lips, she said, "Ya Allah, you are witness. I raised these children like my own, but they rejected me. Now the fate of this innocent one is in your hands." The lion was sitting near her. There was anger in its eyes, but also love, as if it was guarding her. The next morning the villagers gathered towards the forest. Fear and wonder were in everyone's hearts. Then from a distance Shakil and Shazia appeared. Their clothes were torn, dust on their faces, and the tiredness of sleepless nights clearly showing in their eyes. Both reached the hut. In front of the door, the lion was standing. Deep scratches were made on the ground by its paws. Shakil called out fearfully, "Amma! Amma! Open the door!" The lion roared loudly as if saying, "Don't come near." Both stepped back in fear. Shakil's trembling voice again said, "Amma, open the door, or else this lion will kill us." From inside came Halima Bibi's tired but peaceful voice, "Not Amma. You both have lost the right to call me Amma." Hearing this, Shakil burst into tears. "Amma, forgive me. I took your love as deceit. I called your sacrifices lies. Please consider me your son once again. Or I will die while living." Halima Bibi's heart trembled. But in the very next moment the scene flashed before her eyes when with these very hands they had pushed her out of the house. Her eyes filled with tears. Finally she opened the door. Shakil fell at her feet. Shazia also began to plead, stretching out her hands for the child. Halima Bibi gently placed the child in Shazia's lap. Then she embraced both Shakil and Nimrao to her chest. Her broken but deep voice echoed, "Remember, a mother is never real or step. A mother is just a mother. I have loved you more than my own life. The bond of a child is not made from blood, but from love." Hearing this, every eye present there became moist. Halima Bibi returned home with her children. The lion also started living with them now. The villagers began to respect it, because it never harmed anyone. Shakil and Nimra served their mother day and night, and Shazia, full of shame, also stayed busy in her service. Halima Bibi loved her grandson deeply. But one day, silently, without any complaint or regret, she returned to her creator. The news of her death drowned the entire village in sorrow. Shakil, Nimra, and Shazia cried their hearts out. Halima Bibi was buried with simplicity. The people were just returning from the grave when suddenly that same loyal lion slowly moved toward the grave. It placed its head on the soil, and streams of tears flowed from its eyes. Its roar was filled with pain and loyalty. The villagers stood watching the scene, holding their breath. After a few moments, the lion closed its eyes there beside the grave and silently took its last breath. The villagers burst into tears. They also buried the lion near Halima Bibi's grave. From that day on, the people of the village often say, "The one who hurts a mother never finds peace, and the child who is deprived of a mother's love and prayer always meets a tragic end." Friends, how did you like this story? Please tell us your thoughts in the comments. This story is entirely based on my own imagination, written only for entertainment and to give a moral lesson to society. Please do not consider it a real incident or related to any true story. Thank you for your love and feedback.